Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Hope everybody's well. For the benefit of the audio, my name's James. You probably know me. I'm one half of the Planet FPL podcast. You are listening to my regular Ask James stream on YouTube, where I invite questions in from the YouTube viewers on anything football related, and I will cover them as best I can. Not sure how busy it's going to be. It's obviously the football season's finished, and I presume there won't be too many FPL questions. Maybe we can have a more generic chat about things going on in football at the moment, but happy to cover anything that's in the request. We can cover FPL, not a problem. So let's see who we've got in the chat today. We've got Ash says, "Hi James, how about having no limit of number of players from one team in a free hit?" That's an interesting concept. I think it's one of them again where it's beyond the 98% of people that aren't regularly engaged in the game. It's just another extra layer of rules. The more rules you add to the layers of FPL as a game, the less global interest you're going to get. It needs to be as simple as it is. So people wanting full fifth chips, bring on your sub if he's the high scorer and all these things. I just don't see them sort of things happening. It just becomes confusing. So that's the first time I've heard that idea. I mean, personally, I wouldn't be against it. I mean, it would be amazing in a week where, say, you only had two teams who had a double game week, for example. If they were two, I don't know, mid-range price kind of teams, like what we've seen with, say, Chelsea Spurs this year, for example, you could probably fit in a good team of Chelsea Spurs assets for a double game week, for example. I just say good Spurs assets. Someone edit that out. That's going to be my fucking responsibility, isn't it? You know what I mean, though. I wouldn't see it happening, though, actually, in all honesty. Benny Blanco says, "Afternoon, James. What do you make of the Ake transfer? First choice of backup to Laporte?" I spoke about this on the stream last week or the week before. I think it's probably last week. And I just don't see him as anything more than a backup, personally. I really, really don't. I think he's steady. I think he's not been helped by the fact he's been playing with defensive partners who largely they're a weak team defensively. Bournemouth, even before it gets to their back four, they're weak in turnovers. I just don't see Ake and Laporte playing together. I'm sure there's occasions where they will, but I just see Ake is in to give Laporte a breather. That's it. I think if they don't add anyone else, they'll start the season with Laporte and Garcia. Ake will be back up for Laporte, and Otamendi or Stones, depending on who stays, will be back up for Garcia. That's the way I think it's going to go. Ake and Garcia away from home just smells like it would get bullied to fuck, personally. I'd be surprised if in Guardiola's thinking he's gone, I want a new partner for Laporte. Let me go and get another left footer. I really, really don't think that's the case at all. Laporte never plays right-sided centre-half. Nathan Ake has played right-sided centre-half the last few games before injury out of necessity, because he also had to play Lloyd Kelly, who's a left-back, a left-sided centre-half. So Ake went over one more to right-sided centre-half, then ended up with a back four very briefly that had three left-footers, which is very unusual. So Ake can play that position. I don't believe Ake playing that position is what's made Guardiola decide, oh yeah, I saw Ake play right-sided centre-half and they got battered 5-2 at Man United. That's the game that's going to make me buy him. No, I don't think it is. I think it's price is reasonable, 40-odd million, if that's what's true, what's being reported. And they're taking advantage of that because of contract issues. I'm very surprised that he's going to chance going there rather than going, say, back to Chelsea where he gets in the team, even probably Tottenham gets in the team, Arsenal gets in the team. I just don't think it'd be first choice at Man City. But he's still relatively young as well, so he could well develop that. Listen, you got an amazing coach there to help improve. But I think he's back up, mate. It's what you pay in a modern game, 40 million for backup. The other obviously slight thing on that is it probably does allow them a little bit more variation to go to back three. I think Ake and Laporte could then play centre of that back three. I think that's fine. I just don't see them playing together in a back four as first choice. I'd be very surprised. FPL marking Quixote. Hi, James. If someone takes a penalty instead of shooting passes to a teammate, would official FPL consider it to be a missed penalty? Well, I'd assume, yeah, have to be. I wasn't playing fantasy football at the time of the the Perez Henry penalty in 2005 at Highbury against Man City when Perez was meant to play it to Henry and then just didn't really. But I presume in that case it would be missed penalty, and then if it's converted by the teammate, then it's assist. So would you get for that +1? Do you? It'd be a bit harsh, but it is what it is. Players definitely aren't thinking about fantasy football in that moment. It's not something we've seen happen for a long time, actually. I think the last ones to do it really of note was Suarez and Messi did it for Barcelona, didn't they? But that's the only time it's ever happened in the Premier League, was that Perez Henry incident in 2005. Angus McPhail says, afternoon, hope you will. I am, Angus, hope you will too. Perlo's Pen, hi James. I know you've spoken about how good Kane could be for City. How likely is that actually to happen? What kind of money, contract, logistics do you think would need to take place? I think for City to buy Kane, considering the FFP stuff, I mean, look, we're seeing Aki's coming in and they're getting a Spanish fella in for an amazing deal from Valencia. Again, although they're spending the money, God, that's fucking bright. They're kind of fucking light shining right off a car in my eye. They're kind of not going over the top with players. Now, Kane is going to be in excess of 100 million. I don't really care what anyone says. And City have just not really paid that kind of transfer fee for someone. So City would need to sell players for that sort of thing to happen. You could argue that the two transfers they're doing now are because of the sale of Leroy Sané's. Again, you know, believe it or not, yet they're balancing books as it stands. So they'll still have more money to spend this summer should they want to. It would need Guardiola to be right in on Kane, say, Kane, I want to go, I want you, and Kane to be into Spurs saying, I want to go and play for Man City. It's just something I've speculated in terms of, I think for what City want and need at the moment, actually, because Kane's not a tiki-taka forward as such, you don't really associate that sort of player with playing for Man City. I think he'd be absolutely perfect for them at the moment. I really do. It's not a transfer that I would see happening. I think because of circumstance, you're just not going to see players like Kane move this summer, really, unless Harry Kane knew that there was a possibility and put his foot down and went, I want to go. Which is probably unlikely with the way we finished the season. I do still think that this next season will probably be his last for Tottenham. But I think you're going to see a lot. There's going to be so much more caution in the transfer window this summer. You're seeing clubs like City, Brighton getting a little bit of business done quite early. I don't think there's going to be monster transfer. You take an example like Jack Grealish. He could well start the season with Villa. Every Villa fan knows he should go, whether they like it or not, knows he should go and play for a different football club and play at a higher level. But who's going to get him at the moment? We discussed this on one of the pods we did earlier in the week. Might have been one of our Patreon ones. We talked about Jack Grealish. We're saying, right, the Champions League side's probably not going to go for him at the moment. Chelsea stacked. Does he fit into United's style? City, we've heard massively mentioned, but Guardiola said he wouldn't get a replacement for David Silva because he's already got one in Phil Foden. And I don't see him fitting in with Liverpool. Don't see that as a transfer. So that leaves him, Tottenham and Arsenal. And as I said to Serge, if you was Jack Grealish, would you go to Tottenham or Arsenal at the moment? I don't think you would. I don't think you'd want to make that decision incorrectly. I think you'd probably wait another year and then have a clearer idea of which one's on the upward trajectory and then go. It would be more likely Arsenal than Tottenham, by the way, if one was to happen. And right now, it's probably the only place I could see him going, actually. He's Arsenal, if Arsenal were to do a deal. Benny Blanco says, also totally on board with the cup idea for the second team in Sky. I only played with one team last year and couldn't really see the point of the second one. But you found a good reason for me. Yeah, he had this idea around about September, October time last year, which is a bit late for our start. I'm not going to get into Sky too much now, Benny, but obviously for those listening, if you've not listened to the Sky podcast yesterday and you're seriously thinking of giving the game a go, which I finished 277th playing my first season and it's £50,000 to the winner. Genuinely, if you're in the UK or Ireland, what are you waiting for? Just play the game. I recommend listening to yesterday's podcast. I also tagged a link on Twitter last night for the podcast we did with Paul at Sky Player and FPL, the kind of podcast that got me and Suj into it last summer, to send that out again. And next Wednesday, we're going to do a very basic introduction to Sky, comparing basically point scoring in the 2 games. That's the #1 thing we're going to do next week. And depending on how long that takes, because we are going to be very descriptive about it. For the guys who already play, it's going to be really boring, I'll be honest. But we want to give something to new people to encourage them. Depending on how long it takes, we might get onto a little bit of strategy afterwards. But yeah, get on Sky, man. If you're in England or Ireland, seriously, I want to finish top 10k in FPL. Just to tell your mates, great, brilliant. With Sky, you will finish in the top 1,000 if you use your brain. Simple as that. And it's £50,000 to the winner. And it's going to get harder, but we're working harder. The patrons know how passionate I am to make the game for them successful next year. And I think someone we know can win it. Absolutely. FPL Badger says, afternoon, mate. How's your fantasy? Scotland tinkering coming on? Oh, Mark, I haven't logged in yet. One of the few players I even know plays in Scotland now is Cosgrove at Aberdeen, and I've heard he's injured for like 3-4 months. I wouldn't have a clue, Mark. Once we've done the content this week, tomorrow evening, I'll log in. I will pick a team. I'm going to give it a go because a lot of my patrons are giving it a go. So I will give it a go. See if we can set up a mini league for you guys. No, I haven't got a clue, mate. I just know I need as many Celtic and Rangers players as I can probably afford. Wouldn't have a Scooby, mate. Angus McPhail, do you think Chelsea will / should exercise their right to match City's bid for Aki? Will, don't know. Should they? Yes. And should Aki probably go back there rather than go to Man City? In my opinion, yes. Ian Wilson, likelihood that Aki starts alongside Laporte and City play with 2 left-footed centre-backs. Question, seen lots saying it won't happen, but plenty of teams play with 2 right-footed centre-backs, so I don't see a difference. I've part covered this, Ian, but I'll elaborate on it a little bit, right? So left footers are a rare commodity in football, right? There's not a balance of 50 players who are best with their right foot and 50 players who are best with their left foot. That's not the case, right? 80% probably. I don't know the numbers, but 80% probably are stronger with their right foot than their left foot. And because of that, left footers, particularly defensive ones, will always, as kids and in training, play as left-sided defenders. Right-sided players will often end up covering left-sided centre-half. How many right-footed players you seen play left-back? Loads. How many left-footers you see play right-back? You know how fucking weird it looks when a left-footed player plays right-back? Really weird. We see right-footed players cover at left-back all the time. So I think a lot of that comes through coaching and development at younger age. Attacking players is a little bit different because you've obviously got inverted wingers now who will play with that style of left foot or right on the right. But from a defensive position, how often do you see a left-footed player play on the right side of a defence? There are huge differences between left-sided centre-half and right-sided centre-half positionally. I'm telling you, honestly, Ledley King was a right-footed player who played the majority of his career at left-sided centre-half because that's where he ended up playing because we didn't have left-footed centre-halves. When he played at right-sided centre-half for England, he wasn't as comfortable. And you might think that's weird. And it made, you know what, maybe it is, but it's just a big, big difference in terms of where you're at positionally in terms of your body, right? Think of a centre-back. The centre-back for Manchester City is going to have the ball all the time. Loads of the ball. You're going to have 60, 70, 80 passes per game, depending on opposition, right? And the way it gets punched out of there into midfield or into the full-back's really important. A left footer who's going into City's right-hand channel is so obvious that it's going there. So obvious. Think about a left-footed player playing left-sided centre-half and then trying to open out. Is he going into left-back into Sterling? Zinchenko. Is he going further down the line towards Sterling? Or is he coming into a midfield area towards Foden, David Silva, whoever's playing there, right? One body shape can make 3 passes. You try and do that on the other side, the same body shape can only make 1 pass. And these little things will be massive for Guardiola. I'm absolutely certain of that. Take the ball, pass the ball. It's his mantra. If a player can only pass to one area, it's not really good enough for him because you know where it's going when it goes to the right back? The other team's going to know that. It's going straight back again. Then he's going to open up his body and you're going onto the left-sided centre-half. That's okay as ball retention. It's not good when you're trying to break down the opposition. It becomes obvious unpredictable. And so therefore, I think Ake generally will be a stand-in for Laporte. I'd be shocked if that's who Guardiola has chosen as who he wants as his right-sided centre-half. It's not to say they won't play together. I just don't see it. FPL Panda, afternoon, mate. Ake to City. It's all about Nathan Ake today, isn't it? Does this mean potentially Stones moving on? Also seems Koulibaly going somewhere else. United, maybe. Koulibaly's one of them falls into the, yeah, everyone wants him, but is anyone going to pay the money for him now? Can they afford to? It might be that he has to stay at Napoli for another year. John Stones, he's fascinating. I'd have him at Spurs. I really would. He's got all the qualities. He needs someone to teach him ugly. And that's where I think actually Mourinho's got strength. He needs to teach him to be a bastard. That's what he needs. His football ability is okay. I mean, he's not as good as he thinks he is. But he needs to be taught how to be a bastard as a centre-half because everything else is there. And that's why actually I wouldn't mind him at Spurs. But I speak to Everton fans and Everton fans would be like, don't want him back. Don't want him back, even though I think they could do with that sort of player personally. So really interesting one. Looks like it's not going to work for him at City now. I think that's too long now where the Norwich game in game week 5 was like, it was the death for Stones and Otamendi. He was like, I can't play these two again together. But it was too late. It was the first game after the transfer window. And it's one of the biggest reasons why Man City didn't win the league last season. So do I think he'll move on? Yes. I think John Stones would be a good signing for a number of clubs. I even think Chelsea. I think it'd be better for them, but they don't have the coach that will teach them the bastard stuff. Maybe that's the same with Arteta at Arsenal. I actually think John Stones at Tottenham would work, personally, but wages, etc., it wouldn't happen. Marshall Matters, triple Chelsea next season. Yeah, pricing, guessing them's going to be quite interesting, isn't it? Werner, midfielder or forward. Ziyech, definitely midfielder. What do we think? 8.5, something like that. That would be interesting and appeal. Havertz, if he goes there, what price? You want 3 of them. That'll cost you probably, let's say 24, 25 million if you wanted the 3 of them. You're still going to fit in your Fernandes, De Bruyne's and all that. You ain't going for none of them defensively, are you? So, no, I don't see that. And we mentioned Pulisic. Pulisic's going to go up in price, isn't he? Marshall Matters is saying, yeah, attack. Yeah, what about your Brunos, your De Bruyne's, or Aubameyang if he's a midfielder, etc. I mean, Kinnear, Angus, we could have signed January for 25 million. He's referring to Nathan Ake. But Lampard doesn't rate Ake, so we won't match the bid. Ake will want City anyway. It's interesting. Brad Lewin says, afternoon, James. Aaron Connolly and Alzate just signed new long-term contracts. What a transfer window for us so far. He's a Brighton fan. Hopefully more. Also, what do you think of the new Spurs kit? I like it. If the green kit was someone else's kit, I'd go, it's all right. Don't like that ARA shit on the front of it. It just doesn't really do it for me. At least on your away kit, it's not red. The home kit is different. Put it this way. If I was to buy one tomorrow, I'd buy the green one, I think. It's different. My old man's not happy about it, but I said to him that after Ajax and Man City in the Champions League, there was always going to be more green kits, mate. There was no way the club wasn't going to try and take advantage of that again, although it's a very different green to what was worn in that Champions League run a couple of years ago. No. When you start buying the kits for yourself, you probably shouldn't buy them anymore. It's probably how, excuse me, probably how I feel about it. Or when you're old enough to consciously realise that you are paying for it, you know, when you've got responsibilities like a mortgage and a family and stuff like that. When you spend all your money down the pub, yeah, cool, still get yourself a shirt. But what, 60 quid for something that just essentially you have to wear something else underneath because they fucking absorb sweat. You can't wear it for 12 hours. You end up fucking stinking and smelling like you haven't had a wash for a week. They're designed for players, not designed for fans. So not really for me. Rob Picks his afternoon, James. What is your instinct on what will happen in the Wigan hearing? The amount of shit that Barnsley seem determined to throw at it tells me they must be concerned. So Rob supports Barnsley, and obviously we're going to go in for this appeal against the 12-point deduction. Should they get it off, it, in theory, means that Barnsley will go down in their place. I don't think we're going to get it overturned, by the way. But I think Barnsley are heavily involved because they've been very outspoken over the last week or so about other clubs doing certain things. And I think there's a good chance that should Wigan get off, Barnsley are going to try and drag Sheffield Wednesday right into it. That's what I think is happening. I think there's a lot about Sheffield Wednesday which is not in the media at the moment, and it's probably going to come out maybe in the next month or so. I think they're a club I've wanted to look at for the podcast, of a club that I think me and Such will look at again during August at some point to find out what's going on there. Why have Wigan been penalised for something and Sheffield Wednesday not been penalised for something? I realise that they're two different things. In fact, obviously Wigan's gone into administration, I know that. But it seems from the outside looking in that there is some sort of wrongdoing that's happened at Sheffield Wednesday, and a punishment might be incoming at some stage. One really to watch out for in the news. If Sky Sports whether want to cover it and actually say, EFL, do your fucking job properly. Because that would be good if the guys who run our 24-hour sports service actually called out the EFL to say what a fucking disgrace they are. Would be really, really good for football in our country at the moment, because the EFL are the main reason why Wigan Athletic is going to be playing League One football next season. They are the main reason. Wigan play under the umbrella of the EFL. The EFL have let down one of their, I don't know, what would you call them? People. I don't know how to describe it. They've let down one of their clubs, and it's their fault. And Wigan shouldn't be playing in League One. You know, I hope for Rob's sake that Barnsley do stay in the Championship as well. It's nothing against them. It's nothing against Charlton, who went down. It's nothing against Luton, who also stayed up. Just think the majority of us are pretty disappointed that we're going to go down to League One. Next week, 100%, there's going to be a big EFL focus from me and Such in terms of a podcast, 100%. Notorious Nerd, thoughts on Aki? Not an FPL option, mate, so you know he's playing. You're saying 5 million or 5.5 million, maybe. There's a new signing for Manchester City, mate. Don't be surprised if he's 6 million, mate. Christoph, Sam, hi, James. Early thoughts on top 4 next year. I think City are favourites and we might see a bit of Liverpool drop-off. I think should lockdown last for the whole season. I think Man City, yeah, would rightly be favourites, in my opinion. They've adjusted. I know they lost at Southampton, they lost at Chelsea, but generally speaking, they've adjusted like we'd have expected. Yeah, they've lost a couple of games, but then also had nothing to play for, so it doesn't really matter. They've been smashing some teams, haven't they? Kind of fixture run, admittedly. They smashed Liverpool as well. City need to sort this out defensively. I'm not sure that's sorted yet, but yeah, I probably would just about make them favourites. The longer we be in lockdown, the better for City, I think. They're just not bothered whether a crowd's there or not. It makes very little difference to them. That's not a snide comment that City fans aren't there or anything like that. It's the style of the way they play. Whereas with Liverpool, either the crowd will drag them into it if they're having a bad day, or they'll drag the crowd up by playing at a higher tempo. It's different styles of football. Yes, City, I think, just over Liverpool. I think United and Chelsea would still be a distance off, with United better than Chelsea at the moment. I can't see at the moment Tottenham or Arsenal doing enough, I think. Fourth will come down to consistency, though. Chelsea definitely the fourth best side in spite of their defensive problems. But a Tottenham or Arsenal or a Wolves or Leicester or whomever would only have to show consistency in constantly beating the teams worse than them, and you can finish top 4. That's all it takes, is consistency. Consistency to put together 23 wins or so. That's it. So you're looking at, 23 wins is, if you beat the bottom half, home and away, it's 20 wins. It's consistency. That's the major thing. If Spurs have been consistent this year, we would have finished above Chelsea. That's why shit like Bournemouth really pissed me off. The performance of Sheffield United, the performances at Southampton on New Year's Day, the performance at Norwich a few days earlier. Other games that you just got to be winning these games. No excuses. Consistency will get fourth next year. I suspect that Chelsea's goal scoring potential will mean that they'll be strong enough to do it. James Bradford, hi James. What do you make of Veltman to Brighton getting their business in early, decent signings so far? Yeah, I think Veltman is decent sign. I think it adds depth. I've seen a lot of people saying you've got Clark and White coming back. You've already got Dunk, Byrne, Webster, Duffy. Do you need this many players? I think you might see that it's leaning towards Brighton playing a back three more consistently next year. That's one thing. I think some of these players like Duffy will be let go. And what's wrong with having strength in depth? I've said many times this is a forward-thinking football club. And we know that Potter likes to rotate his teams. So why shouldn't they have more strength in depth at the back? Because at the moment, it'd be blindly obvious if Lewis Dunk came out of that team at the moment. It's pivotal to them. So they're going to have more options next season. I really genuinely think, depending on fixtures, they could have a really fast start and shock, I wouldn't be surprised if they finished top half next season. I don't think they'll be anywhere near trouble. I think they'll be better for the year's development under Potter. I think you might even see I've taken the piss out of him about being worse than Guardiola for team selections. We don't notice it because we don't look at their assets as much. But I think you might actually get a little bit more stability in terms of system, at least in terms of how they want to play next year. I think he's used a lot of this season as an experiment. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he knows where he wants to go next. The signings make me think it could be leaning towards a back three. Even the signing of Lallana makes me think that going more with a three essentially in midfield. I think Lallana is a fantastic signing, and a lot of people disagree with that. I think he's a brilliant footballer. I think no way an FPL asset. I think he's going to develop. We've seen small signs of this at Liverpool. We've been playing deeper in games when they've been chasing a game. It was right for Liverpool to let him go because he was going to have limited minutes, and the player's too good not to be playing football. I think it's a great coup for Brighton. I think it'd be a brilliant signing for them. I think he'll offer them greater control of games from a deeper position. I see him now as a deeper lying midfielder rather than a 10. He can obviously play both roles, and he can play in wide positions as well. Multifunctional, very much. You say modern footballer over the last 10 years, Adam Lallana always comes to mind. Modern footballer. Great close control, simple, can play in multiple positions, good energy, good presser, which admittedly, that's one of the reasons why I think he'll go deeper now is obviously legs and injuries can't press in the way that he used to. I think it's a top signing for Brighton. I genuinely think they'll do very well next year. Owen Kinnear, Kubalali is still in City's plans according to Sam Lee. Who's Sam Lee, Owen? He's some correspondent for someone, is he? Suresh says, hey, James, who do you think will join Premier League from the Championship playoffs? I'm quite excited by the looks of Brentford. Yeah, you'd have to make them favourites, I think. I mean, it looks like we'll find out tonight. But it looks like they'll probably play Fulham in the final. I think first game after lockdown, Brentford beat Fulham 2-0 with 2 late goals. I'd be concerned about Brentford defensively, but that BMW strike force is brilliant, and we're going to be doing a lot of looking at them. If Brentford come up, I think the majority of us will start with a Brentford player in FPL next year, would be my instinct. They're going to be well worth a look. Don't rule out Fulham at all. Don't rule them out. Owen Kinnear, Kubalali, Garcia, and Laporte, Aki is a very good selection. Where do you see Stones going? Yeah. I don't know. It's like a Leicester to replace Johnny Evans when the time is right, maybe. Or if Rodgers has decided he really does want to play a back three, then he needs another centre half. Leicester, maybe. Christoph Sam, Neymar did it in a friendly last week. Oh, yeah, is that the penalty thing, is it? Yeah, but Neymar's different, and he's a strange character. And a cheat. Paul Coleman, is it that time already? Hi, or what are your thoughts on Man U rotation in CMFPL? Not a clue, Paul. Not a clue. I've got Silvestre. I won't cover this too much because for a lot of people it'd be boring. I've got Silvestre. I'm probably not going to add to it, I don't think, but I've got the money to go straight from Viduka to Van Nistelrooy, so I might, whereas a lot of people perhaps can't do. Rob Pick said, heard a rumour you might have a leak. Did I miss it? No, you didn't. So I met up with Michael Bridges last night. We had a beer in the editor's tap. in London, you know, old hunting ground for myself, live shows, Planet FPL Live 1, Live 2. Turns up, man's on a beer. I say to him that, Mike, you sure you want to be drinking like 3 days before a game? He says, you've forgotten the manager used to be play at Arsenal with that culture and stuff. I said, oh yeah, fair point. Fair point. So at this point, I think I'm going to get the team leak for Leeds, right? He says to me, he says, you know why I'm here, don't you? And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to get the team leak for Champ Man, am I? He says, mate, I should have joined Tottenham in '99, you know that? And I said, well, yeah, well, that's like your fault, mate. You chose to go to Leeds. He said, oh, listen, mate, Alan Sugar wouldn't pay the money that Peter Ridsdale would pay. So I decided to go to Leeds. I didn't think it'd be such a problem from rotation and stuff. I said, well, what do you want me to do, mate? He said, well, I've watched your Champ Man streams. You're amazing, mate. And I know if you're a massive Spurs fan, you must have links to the club and that. And I was like, well, yeah, maybe. And he said, do you reckon the new chairman will be able to pay the money that I want? And I was like, mate, have you fucking met Daniel Levy? I don't think so, son. So he's like, I'm going to be stuck at Leeds. And I said, look, in fairness, mate, you're a North East boy. I reckon your future probably leads to like loans at Newcastle, Sunderland, playing for a bit of Hull City, maybe even a spell at Carlisle. Do yourself a little tour of the North East. Drop in on Middlesbrough if you want to say hello on the way and that, if you feel like you miss them out. It's probably your career, mate, because basically after you didn't sign for Spurs in 1999, just went a little bit downhill from there. He was pretty pissed off at this point. So anyway, he threw me up a screwed bit of paper and it had the Leeds team in it, and he's not in it. Leeds team in Champ Man this weekend is Nigel Martin, Gary Kelly, Jonathan Woodgate, Dominic Matteo, Ian Hart, Lee Bowyer, Eric Backer, Olivier Decour, Stephen McPhail, Robbie Keane, and Alan Smith. Matteo at centre half, no Harry Kewell again. Cheers, Champ Man, guys. That's for you. Angus McPhail, do you think the big part of the reduction in interest in Grealish is that he's no longer a bargain because Villa stayed up? Villa's hand would have been forced more if Villa got sold, right? So I think even then they'd know as a football club, we can't hold this guy in the Championship. He's got to be playing Premier League football. So you would have got him cheaper price if he'd gone down. The necessity to Villa to sell now is not the same. And I think it's probably different for Jack Grealish. If Villa had gone down, Jack Grealish would have looked at Tottenham or Arsenal, for example, and gone, oh, I'll go. I'll definitely go. Because even if it's the case, go there 1-2 years and then jump up again. Whereas now, I think you probably think, well, do I want to play for Tottenham or Villa, Arsenal for a year, or do I want to help Villa for another year? And he might be thinking, I'll help Villa for another year. That's the point. FPL Panda, not yet, Rob. It's in now, mate. Notorious Nerd. Hi, James. Do you think Man United are better off signing Van der Beek at 50 million than continue to pursue Grealish priced at 8 million? Probably yes, actually. Probably yes. Good player, Van der Beek. I mean, Jesus, did they have some players that year? The benefit of Grealish is obviously is the knowing what he can do in the league, the transferring that over. You know exactly what you're getting. But yeah, I just don't see where Grealish at United works now. What is he competing with? Fernandes. There's only one choice. Fernandes plays. Excuse me. Your social media assistant, Dan Ball. Hello, mate. Was with Steve-O yesterday. He's on Sky Fantasy now because of your channel. Nice. Glad to hear that. I love Steve-O. What a top guy he is. And the elite guys. If any of them are in today, hello. Notorious Nerd. Will Phil Foden be moved into the midfield to fill Silva's void after the signing of Ferran Torres? Phil Foden's long-term position essentially anyway, I'm sure. That what they played that night against Liverpool. Foden and De Bruyne, like with one behind them protecting. Fire, man. Don't want Phil Foden in wide positions. I think it's good for him to play multiple positions, for him to develop. So for me, watching it as an England fan, I've no issue with it. You want him centrally. He's good enough to play centrally. It's not a doubt. That signing may well help in terms of Foden playing more centrally. I would agree with that. Alex Dobbins, hey mate, if you could change any of the Sky FF bonus structure for next season, what would you change? I'd like to see tackles tier be lowered to 2, not 3. Interestingly, one of the things that we'll delve into in a few weeks is, I think, and I haven't seen the data on this, but I think there were less tackle tiers won during lockdown in Sky than there were prior. Now, one of that might be that Ricardo Pereira was injured, but I just think, yeah, there was less tackles. Perhaps a lot of it to do with that first few weeks where it felt like every team, bar probably Southampton, was sitting off defensively without the ball, just making sure we retreated, get men behind the ball. I think it was very fitness related, a lot of that. But no, I mean, to be honest, Alex, because it's my first season. I don't know if I'm best placed to kind of have an opinion on that. The man of the match one really annoys me, as I said on yesterday's podcast. The only other one might be, I don't know if they feel that they might feel that there's too much value now in the goalkeepers. Now, admittedly, you can only have one of them, but they might think there's too much value in them. That might be something that they're not happy with, possibly. Brian Yule is 30 million for a 29-year-old Alcantara. Good business for Liverpool, and who does he replace? I'd love him at Spurs. You know that. You might not know that, but most of you will know that. Does he fit Liverpool's style? I'm not sure he does. He feels more like a Man City player to me, personally. But he's 39 million, a good business for a 29-year-old who's on his day is absolutely world class. Yeah, forget the money you're losing with him. It's not a problem. What can you get back in terms of earnings, etc., on that 30 million by delivering trophies? That's how you look at it. You're paying big money for a 29-year-old. You're looking at your return investment doesn't come through player sales. It comes from what you do on a football pitch. You need immediate returns. That sort of guy can help with immediate returns. They don't have a player like him. I'd say that. I mean, the closest comparable is Fabinho, and is a very different footballer. I think he's brilliant on his day. I really, really do. I think he can be a lazy bastard. It's worth saying. That's part where I'm not sure it works for Liverpool. But he's a top player. Get him on the ball. What a player. FPL Panda completely agree on Stones, mate. Nasu, is it true FPL website will be updated on 21st of August? I've not heard an official date. JC, I think Willian and Malang Sarr are two great options for Liverpool. Willian can play either side and happy on bench. Sarr can play left back or centre back thoughts. I don't know enough about Malang Sarr. That's the honest option, Jay, so I wouldn't try and blag it and give you an answer. Willian, no, it doesn't play in the same way that Salah and Mane want to in terms of the going beyond Firmino. Willian's the sort of player who likes to see the game. You can have players who play in the same position, some who like to see the game, and some who are happy to run beyond the game. Salah and Mane are two players who are happy to run beyond the game. Willian is not really that sort of player. So, I mean, does it offer a varying option for different tactical setups? Yeah, of course. But no, I wouldn't see that one. I suspect Willian will end up at Arsenal, I think. Matt Clark, afternoon, mate. What do you think will happen to Ryan Fraser? Do you think he will struggle with a bad rep now? Feel like he threw in the towel when Bournemouth could have got up off the canvas. I was surprised when I spoke to Neil Grover at AFCB NG last week on Clash of Correspondence how he wasn't upset about it. The fact that he'd gone, he understood Fraser's reasoning for not playing. It probably speaks volume for Bournemouth supporters as a whole, being different to a number of other culturally football fans around the country. Who would buy him now? Well, someone might want to pick him up his wages, but the transfer window's open. Are they waiting for a 1st July or something? You'd assume that the deal's already done somewhere, you would think. Otherwise, you might as well stay with Bournemouth. So, or they just been, we'll let it wait a couple of weeks. So it doesn't look like it's been done weeks ago or so. I don't know. Excuse me. Tottenham and Arsenal have both been heavily linked with him. He's going to want big wages. I don't particularly think he improves either, personally. Good squad player, yeah, definitely. I don't know. Does he even, if it's the Ryan Fraser of last season, does he even improve an Everton or a Brighton or someone like that? Southampton? Not really. If it's a Ryan Fraser in the year before, he improves Tottenham or Arsenal, right? So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. That's a really interesting one to follow, actually, Matt. Christoph Sam thinks Werner 10.5, Ziyech 8.5, Pulisic 9, Harvitz 8. Okay. British Mukherjee, which team would you recommend between Leeds and West Bromwich Albion for a set and forget goalkeeper? Price, right? Dependent. I presume they'll both be 4.5 million, but would have favouritism for Leeds myself personally. But again, I've not seen enough of the two sides. I'll do my research once I know who's won Tuesday, and then we'll look at it from there. Joe Finney Badder, news from the Athletic that Watford have appointed Barnsley head coach Gerhard Struber. Rob Pitt could be happy with that. Seeing he's done great things in Europa League with Wolfsberger and with Barnsley. He definitely didn't do anything with Barnsley in Europa League, mate. Marshall Matazic for 8.5 would be a steal. I can see him easily getting 20+ goal involvement. I don't, actually. I don't. And I'm not sure it'd be a lock that first season in terms of starting lineup. We'll see. We'll see. Risk and reward, definitely. He's a very interesting one to follow. And I think, look, at that price, he'll probably be worth the gamble, actually. Rob Warnock, hi, mate. Any prediction for top 4 next season? On a separate note, where do you reckon Spurs will finish? I think Spurs will finish next season anywhere between 4th and 12th, roughly, depending on how the season goes. I say 12th because we might have a really bad league season and it might just become really about the Europa League and just fuck the rest. If you pinned me right now, I would say probably 6th. Again, something like that. Lot to be seen what happens in the transfer window. Obviously, we have plenty to do. Top 4 I did cover earlier on the stream. Rob B. Conway, surely Spurs should make an effort. Luring Grealish could definitely do with that bit of creativity. Price likely to be an issue. Price, wages, massive issues. Spurs could have got Jack Grealish for a lot cheaper when Villa lost the playoff final to Fulham and decided to try and negotiate certain things into the deal. And Spurs should just paid the money and they'd have been getting older Jack Grealish for probably about 20 million. And this is where some of the anger starts amongst the Spurs community in terms of you got a lot thinking, well, look what Daniel Levy's done with the club in terms of its rise of status from mid-table nobodies to being a side regularly in the Champions League, and obviously what's happened with the stadium, the training ground, etc. to the others who look at it and go, yeah, we got there, and then you didn't do anything to get us up there, which is getting the players that Pochettino wanted, like Jack Grealish, Sadio Mane, loads of them who just slipped through the net because of too much negotiating and not just paying the price, and ended up paying more money for some of these players in some cases anyway. And Ndombele's another one. Spurs were looking at him a lot cheaper a year ago, apparently. So I've heard in the last couple of weeks. Pochettino wanted him while Dembele was still there to get him phased into the team and the group in preparation for Dembele to leave. And Spurs would have been paying much cheaper if they'd have gone earlier. So there's stories of that, lots. Can't see Jack Grealish come to Tottenham. Money. I don't see why Jack Grealish would want to play for fucking Mourinho either. TJ Dara, hey James, any opinions on the Championship playoffs? Do you think anyone will come in for Ollie Watkins, Ben Rama, etc. if any teams don't go up? Yeah, them Brentford guys are definitely getting looked at if they don't come up. There's a few of them who are definitely going to be playing Premier League football if they don't come up. Absolute certainty. I do fancy Brentford to probably win it, yeah. I would say. Notorious nerd David Brooks, where does his future lie? Which club should be interested in? David Brooks, to me, sounds like a January signing for someone. He's been out for so long. He needs to play football first. It's not going to do him any good if he goes somewhere and he's going to be a rotation player. He needs to get up. He's been out for so long. He needs to get up a long run of 8-9 games consecutively. And if that's at the Championship, playing twice a week till January, I think that's probably what he should do. Don't be surprised if he ends back up at Sheffield United, actually, in the long run. Dylan Farrell, James, can you see City playing with 2 left-footed centre-backs? Hope you're keeping well, by the way. Covered that at the top, Dylan, so I'm not going to go through that again, mate, but good, thank you. Hope you are too. Jacko, will Chelsea assets be as susceptible to rotation as City midfielders such as Maris, Sterling, Bilver? Is Lampard more likely to find a settled 11? They're very susceptible to it, mate, until he knows what his team's going to be, and even then he might not know. Yeah, you're susceptible to see different players playing in different positions, in different systems. I think a lot of that at the start. A lot of that. You're not going to have a lot to go on pre-season. The one benefit is obviously if they beat Arsenal on Saturday, you get to see them in a Community Shield against Liverpool, which will give you some clues. But I wouldn't be surprised if both teams were allowed to make 11 substitutes in that game, actually. Mushroom Mathers, when FPL prices be announced? I don't know. I don't work for FPL, mate. John Chappell, what position do you think Spurs will be next year? Just join stream for the answers. Sorry, come you Spurs. No, probably just did that a few minutes ago. John Storm, Legacy, good afternoon, James. Josh Joel, do you think Lucas, Kane and Dyer are the only Mourinho players at the club? That's a good question. You can throw the goalkeeper in. It's fine, Hugo. But yes, you might actually be right on the money there. Quite possibly. Quite possibly. Lucas has been fantastic the last few weeks or so. Not so much the Palace Leicester games, but particularly against Arsenal and Newcastle. Fucking work ethic he put in. Jesus. My goodness. Yeah, forget the attacking stuff. I've had it described about Lucas Moura as a player where possession goes to die, which is extremely harsh. There's some truth in that because ball retention does go into blind alleys quite a lot sometimes. He's also just about the most likely. Jacko agreed Lallana is a great player and could be number 10, was England's best player at one point. Dylan Farrell, Sam Lee is City's the athletic journalist and pretty much their mouthpiece. Cool. Storm Legacy shortage on right side centre backs. Storm Legacy shortage of good right sided centre backs could do with Stones at Chelsea, even with Zuma and Christensen. Perez Thiago looks like he's going to Liverpool. Who do you see him replacing? He's a world class midfielder, in my opinion. Does it have to be replacing? Isn't it just like more rotation? You can look at it as he's replacing Lallana. Look, they've got Chamberlain, Fabinho, Keita, Henderson. You need more, don't you? Obviously, Curtis Jones coming through. You need more. They always play three midfielders, right? So you need 6. So they need more bodies in there. So I wouldn't see it a case of replacing anybody. Does he go into Liverpool's best 11? For me, yes. So it would probably be Fabinho, essentially, Henderson just to the right and Thiago just to the left. That's how I would see that as their midfield three. Arif Eco, hi James, do you have any advice for a better result for newer FPL players? It's my first season in FPL, failed to get out from million clubs, my consolation, thanks. Stop listening to noise on Twitter. That's the best advice I can give you. The group think of this is how you should play, this is how you shouldn't play, etc. Every year is a little bit different. Evolve, adapt. Late Riser 12's made some great comments on that very recently on podcasts and on his Twitter account. Play the game your way. That's what I always try and tell people. I know I'm here to help give advice, and people ask me, always welcome to, and I'll give my opinion. But let me give you an example. Let's say you asked me about Kane and Aubameyang, right? Now, at the weekend, before the game, I said Aubameyang, and I gave my reasoning why, because of what I thought Spurs would do at Crystal Palace, which I was right about. I also gave my opinion on the way I thought the Arsenal-Watford game would go, which actually I was wrong about. It happened, but in not the way I expected. The end result was right. Some of the theory was correct. Some of it was wrong. But if you ask me on Spurs players at the moment, you're going to get bias from me. And you're going to get negative bias from me. Now, you know that's fine because you're asking me, and I'm telling you, you're probably likely to get negative Spurs bias from me. But if you just ask anybody, you don't know if they've got negative bias. You don't know if they've got pro bias. You don't necessarily know what team they support. You don't know if they're approaching it from the aspect of how they feel about their own team. You will never see me ask for advice on Twitter, ever. And that's probably not the right thing to say. I just never ask for it. You will never see me going, oh, do you like option A or option B? No, I'll weigh up the players that I'm considering and I'll come to my own decision. I just generally won't ask anybody for advice. That could be a really bad trait. But one of the reasons I do that is exactly what I just explained. I don't know what's going on in the head of the person that I'm asking. Dangerous. Seek multiple opinions if you want them. No, there's no right or wrong. You'll have learned a reef a lot from what you've done in your own first season. What went well, what went badly. Next year you can improve for sure. The Twitter groupthink can be an absolute pain in the rear when everybody becomes, you have to do this. The worst word, essential. Overly is essential. I think in my head, right, I can't go without Trent, for example. Trent's 9 million next year. I'm still buying him. I don't care. Many of you will know that's my opinion. But a lot of you, man, I ain't paying 9 million for him. Well, it's okay. It's fine. I've got my opinion. And you've got yours. Nobody is essential. It's nonsense, absolute nonsense about he's existential. I've seen loads of people with great ranks this year who are looking at it afterwards going, if only I'd had Kevin De Bruyne. Didn't have Kevin De Bruyne the whole season. Top scoring FPL player. Amazing ranks inside the top 10k. But if they'd had Kevin De Bruyne, what would they have missed out on somewhere else that maybe might not have been good for them? Might have allowed them a better combination of two, better differentials that's got them gains of ranks, for example. There's so much nonsense of noise, genuinely. And please remember as well that I'm not an expert and I'm not a particularly good FPL player either. Storm Legacy, sound like James enjoying the bridges bit too much. Yeah, probably did, mate. Daniel Kruger, hey, mate, I have stage 4 cancer. My friends like your channel. Can you say hi to my mate, Nike? Fucking hell. Daniel, sorry to hear that. Hello, Nike. Keep well, mate. Keep at it. Stay strong. Top man or lady, I presume man. But I wish you well, mate. No probs. Good luck to you. Azzy, Chris Wood, 14 goals, injured for a bit of the season. Do you see him as a good third choice striker? Yeah, Chris Wood be right on my radar for starting next season. Price dependent. It's me Arsenal correspondent Adam Pritchard at 3-5 who's saying afternoon, everyone. Just in time for me to remind you that you will be on Planet FPL tomorrow with a rotation FPL Clash of the Correspondents previewing Saturday's FA Cup final. Ray Creshy quickly wanted to say hi as in a meeting, James. I'll rewatch, but what are your thoughts on Coutinho if we're able to sign him as possible position? Adam would answer that better than myself. Coutinho, great player. Look, I saw him for Bayern against us when I went to Munich in December. He's still got it. Don't fucking doubt that. I think it would definitely be a shift of system more towards a back 4 to what I imagine that Arteta really wants to do with Arsenal. And I think he'd play at the centre as the 10 would be my instinct. Can he go and press in the way that he did for Liverpool? Not so sure about that, but I suspect that, you know, he's not an old man. What is he, 29 or something? Should still be able to do it for a short period. I'd love him at Spurs, honestly. That's I haven't been down the pub for about 4 months. That would make me go down the pub. Just by myself. Just go and sit in the garden in the sun and think, oh my goodness, the shit I'm watching. Oh, I've got Philip Coutinho to look forward to. That would make me smile. That would really make me smile. It'd be a good signing for you, Ray. Azzy, I'm really underwhelmed by the striker options we have in the game. Is there any value in strikers anymore? This is probably going to get worse, I'm afraid, Azzy. We already looked at the discussion on our Patreon pods about people like Vardy, Kane, possibly just not looking like options next year, even if Kane's like cheaper, which we expect that he might be a little bit. Although I suspect FPL might look at it and go 18 goals in 27. Yeah, he can still do it, which I keep telling everyone. But I mean, there's so many good midfielders you can captain. The additional point for the goal, additional point for the clean sheet. Your striker's got to be scoring to be hitting bonus. You know that. Plenty of times you'll score and not hit bonus as well. Although we do know strikers will pick up more bonus points as a rule of thumb. Yeah, but the way it's looking, if Aubameyang drops into a midfielder, we'll all be starting with like 6 million, 7 million forwards next year. Is what it is. Steve George, thought you were turning the phone off, mate. Anyway, who's your first choice right back for Spurs next season? Atal, Serge Aarons, or someone else? Ricardo Pereira from Leicester would be good. Stephen, I'll be turning my phone off, not this week, not next week, but the week after. I will be taking a break completely from Twitter, from content, from Patreon, from Slack, everything between Sunday the 9th of August and Saturday the whatever that is. I don't fucking know. 15th of August. 7 days, and that Sunday, that Saturday, I ain't doing shit. Nothing. On a Sunday, I'm going to switch my phone on, look through the notifications. I'm going to go, Suj, this is what the content's going to be this week. And then we'll smash it out again. So just going to take the 1 week off then. But otherwise, no, I'll do the stream again. It'll probably be next Thursday again. Might be Friday. I haven't decided yet. Pereira. I can get hold of Pereira. Be absolutely perfect for Spurs. From that list you mentioned, I don't think Aaron's. I discussed this on Patreon pod yesterday. I just don't see him as a Mourinho signing. Actually, just because of his height. No other real reason. I don't know enough about the other two, is the honest answer. I know Attal particularly is quite highly rated. If Brentford, Fulham go up, 100% rotation with Chelsea guaranteed, this is a game changer. You're talking about the fact they'll be matched together in terms of home and away fixtures. But what are you looking to rotate there? Kepa with the Brentford or Fulham goalkeeper, as I'm not quite sure there. Richard Roman, what do you think of Werner? His stats are impressive. Top player. Player central striker. I personally like him as on the left of a front three, personally. Top player. Another one Spurs could have bought for absolute peanuts a few years ago. Matt Clark, I agree, mate, on Ryan Fraser 2 seasons ago. I'd be happy to take him at West Ham. Fraser and Bowen on the wings. Not sure we could afford his wage without offloading Anderson. No. Nasu, who impressed you last couple of game weeks that you're considering get for next season? Che Adams. He's in a lot of people's minds, I think. He was in my mind 12 months ago. We put him in our dead team. Yeah. And because of Ings, I think he might even be 5.5, you know. He's 5.5, he'll be in. Yeah, fuck it. Go for it. Coolio, 2 foots. Exactly, James. I don't know what's in response to, mate, but cheers. Adam France. Thoughts on Ori at Spurs? We continue to thrive as an FPL asset. It depends if Spurs are going to buy someone or not, right? I really don't know. Well, Spurs are definitely going to get someone. Are they going to get someone who's better than Ori, or are they going to get someone to be an understudy for Ori, or are they going to bring Cole Walker-Peters back, who Mourinho just clearly doesn't rate? I really don't know. For me, I saw a change in Spurs that was better in terms of the balance over the last, I'd say probably since the Bournemouth game, which was obviously an awful game. But Ori and Davis playing a little bit more like conventional fullbacks in terms of go together, come back together, etc. And Ori's output, you'll have noticed, is way down from that Bournemouth fixture onwards. The thing is, though, they're not going... They're not. You can't compare them, say, Robertson and Trent in terms of the way they're going to go forward. Of course you can't. But the way that they're doing it, they're just not going. It's defensive first, they're not going. So Ori is an FPL asset? No. I think the really interesting one for Spurs next year, I said this on the Patreon pods this week, is Eric Dyer. Could be really interesting next season if he's 5 million. Could be really interesting. I think you'll be attracted to bonus points if we keep clean sheets. It looks like he's going to be the first choice centre half. It reminds me a little bit of that year Phil Jones just kept knocking out bonus points every time Manchester United kept the clean sheet. I feel like it could be like that with Dyer. Jeff Holt saying hello, James. Hope you're well. Hello, Jeff. Hope you're well. Hope the other half's well. 3-5 Coutinho would be a good signing on loan, in my opinion, for Arsenal. He says provides the creativity in the middle that they need, both progressing the ball and with a pass. Also a very good technician. Can sum it up much better. Jacko, any info on Wolves transfers? Read Paulinho in and Jimenez to United. Jack, I suggest you probably shouldn't believe everything you read, mate. Personally, don't see Wolves selling, and we're only improving on 7th, especially if they win Europa. Jeff Holt, there is a new Holt FPL team next year. FPL Mia 8, week old. Kaliko Kitten. She needs help putting the team together. Each player must be cat pun related. Fucking hell, whiskers. Azzy, Prudence could be an interesting option if he can nail a starting spot. Yeah, if. Brian Yule says, Klaus Lundikvam, start your kitten, Jeff. Oh, Jesus. Get into Jeff Holt's DMs, guys. BL says, will Troy Parrott ever get a chance under Jose? Probably not. My understanding, a loan move to Millwall could be announced as early as today. That would be a good move for him. And Nosbit said, what happened to Sessignon this season? Would be better getting loaned out to bottom of English Premier League or Championship next year to get first team football. Question. What happened to Ryan Sessignon? What happened to a lot of people at Tottenham? Jose Mourinho walks in the door. And if you don't like you, you don't like you. And yeah, my opinion is that Ryan Sessegnon should have been playing all of the games for Tottenham in this restart period, whether anybody thinks he's ready or not ready. I think he should have had the chance. He's not going to, in my opinion. I don't think he might have made one substitute appearance for like 5 minutes or so. Come on. Seriously. Right, that'll do it for today, guys, because I've been going for an hour or so. Thanks very much for all the support. Patrons, in the last 5 minutes, your Deportivo La Coruña Nostalgia Pod / looking at the financial issues and why they've now dropped to the 3rd division dropped on your Patreon app 5 minutes ago. That's now available for you to go and have a listen to straight away right now. For the rest of you, I'll be back on YouTube tomorrow with Surge with Clash of the Correspondents with 3-5 rotation FPL, and on the Patreon we'll have an Arsenal and Chelsea quiz ahead of the FA Cup final as well. Quiz about previous meetings between the two clubs, players who played for both, that kind of links between the two clubs basically. Saturday of Champman game week 35 for the Champman guys in. I don't know what minute I posted the Leeds team leak, but I did, and I will put it on Twitter again in a bit as well in case you didn't catch it. Plenty of content this week for the guys on Sky Wednesday. Genuinely join us. We really want to push the amount of players playing Sky next year. It's a massively developing game. I think you'll all enjoy it. Captains every day. Don't fear it. Embrace it. Get high points every week. Me and Suj, scrap that. I'll guide you through it. Suj will be there with me asking the right questions. But yeah, recommend having a listen to yesterday's podcast, and certainly next Wednesday as well, where we'll do an intro in terms of difference of points between the two games. Anyway, right. That's it. I'm going on for now. I've been chatting enough, so I will disappear. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, guys. Thanks very much. And for the benefit of the audio, cue music, please, man.